let's talk about the Eagles. The Eagles are the new gold standard in the NFL. It seems like they kind of ended the Chiefs' run, and now this is the new blueprint. What do you think the Niners need to do to be as good as the Eagles?
Okay. This is even more interesting than the Rams. Here's what I want to say. My working hypothesis is that in the 2025 season, there is no way on earth they're going to be as good as the Eagles. It's not going to happen.
And
I'm
barring a
so
bajillion injuries, yeah.
yeah.
No,
I don't see it, but
no.
we're talking to 49ers fans. So I don't want to be negative, low, all of that, Debbie Downer. Look, we already went over the lines, the offensive and defensive. I got to say, the Eagles, their defensive line and their offensive line, they're great.
Yeah.
And that's how they won the game, Iggy. They
Mhm.
gave the MVP to the quarterback, fine. But the MVP was the defense and Vic Fangio. That was
Yeah.
the MVP. But you can't give it to a whole half of the team. So sure, you give it to the quarterback. So right away, I think the Niners really need to upgrade offensive line, defensive line in order to be in the game with the Eagles. But here's the other thing that bothers me about the Niners. They have four players who are hurt. And I want to name them and then tell you what I think. Ayuk is seriously hurt. The running back, CMC, is hurt.
Mhm.
The left tackle couldn't finish the season. And Dre Greenlaw couldn't finish more than half of the last game he played. So there are four really, really good players, significant players who finished the season very hurt. I think in order to compete or be as good as the Eagles, each one of those four players would have to be as good as he was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
What troubles me about that is they'll be 2 years older. And the Niners are betting that they'll all be well again. Well, my guess is not every one of them is going to be well again. They'll be lucky if they get 50%.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean. Let's go over them one at a time. Is Ayuk even going to play next season?
Maybe late, and he won't have an off season. So what will his condition be when he steps on the field? It could be like the
So,
Dre Greenlaw situation from this past season.
right. So Ayuk, I'm going to call plus minus, okay? I really respect him as a player, but he may be a minus
Mhm.
because he may not be participating. And when he comes back, he has a serious injury. Will he be Ayuk? So I'm calling him a minus. Iggy, the left tackle, has been a Hall of Fame left tackle. He couldn't finish the season. I don't believe that he will play a whole season ever again.
Yeah, he hasn't played a whole season since 2013. He was 25.
Okay. So, Iggy, I have to call him a minus.
Mhm.
Let's call these not minuses, potential minuses. I'm trying to give him every
The
break.
problem with having Trent Williams as your starting left tackle is that means you're going to have 2 to 8 games a season where your starting left tackle is a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's call it a potential minus. The running back, Iggy, he hardly played last season. He was hurt. He came back. He got hurt again. Now, the idea that he's going to be Christian McCaffrey again, I'm going to call it a push. I won't call him a minus, but I can't give him a plus.
That's
For
fair.
me, it's an incomplete. I don't know. Okay. Dre Greenlaw, Iggy, first of all, he's a free agent, so he may not even be here. But in addition, he got really hurt and he couldn't make it back when they said he was able to make it back. Iggy, at the best, I'll give him a push. So I couldn't give any pluses. I have 2 minuses and 2 pushes, and they need those guys. They need those guys. They can't play around those guys. So, Iggy, I don't see them catching the Eagles in one season. How about you?
No, I don't see them catching the Eagles in one season. I think what's so interesting about the Eagles is how they've kind of changed what you're supposed to do to build a team. Like, I think for the last 40 years, everyone said it's a passing league. It's a passing league. You got to have the greatest quarterback. You got to have the best pass rush. They're not a passing team at all. They averaged 181.5 passing yards per game this season. Per game. 181. That was second fewest in the league. They ran the ball 621 times this year. By far number one. I mean, no one else was more than like 550. So everyone's like trying to get the best quarterback and throw it down the field. I mean, they just want to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. And it feels like old school football. But that's, I think, where the league is going. All these defenses are so scared of quarterbacks. They play these two high safeties, split safeties, and dare you to run. And the Eagles take you up on that challenge. And I think the Niners are interesting. They used to be that way. They won the NFC Championship game 4 years ago against the Packers, throwing 8 times. And they kind of got away from that. Whenever they're in big games now, they throw the ball a lot. And it seems like you guys could do that. I mean, you don't have a quarterback quite like Jalen Hurts who can run like that, but you've been a good running team. But they really, really, Kyle wants to pass it deep down.
Right. And the way I learned football is when you have a lead in the fourth quarter, you run the ball. Kyle really doesn't do that. He has excuses why he doesn't run the ball. He always has an excuse, but he doesn't really do it. He's not playing football. So I'm going to come back to the Eagles. They're going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to hurt you. They're going to knock you out of the game. They're going to knock you off the offensive line. They're going to, and what I'm calling, they're playing football. Mm-hmm. We're here to fight. We're here to beat you up.
Our offensive line is going to wear down your defensive line, and our defensive line is going to bully your offensive line.
And get to your quarterback.
Yep.
We're going to get to Patrick Mahomes and make him look bad. They did it. Look, the Chiefs are a good team. They're better than the 49ers. Look what they made the Chiefs look really bad, Iggy. And I think their attitude is, we're going to beat you up. Now, Bill Walsh used to say to me, you know, these teams, Lola, come in and they're really strong and they'll beat you up. Sometimes they meet a team that can do that to them. What do they have then? I got it. You need to have something else. I think Philadelphia has something else.
They do.
And I don't think there's a team in the league that can compete with them in their game.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about him. Like, they have A.J. Brown, pay a lot of money for him, great wide receiver. Also have Devontae Smith, pay a lot of money for him, great wide receiver. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, he throws the ball pretty well. But they just want to run the ball. And they'll throw it if they have to, if you dare them to, if you sell out. But they really are committed to running the ball better than anyone. And you got to admire it, because the Niners are not committed to it. They have the capability, but they're not committed to that.
I'm not sure, Iggy, they any longer have the capability. Jordan Mason, I mean, the poor guy, they got him hurt. And McCaffrey, again, I'm calling it a push, whether he'll ever be McCaffrey again. They theoretically would like to play that way, but I don't know that they're capable of it.
Well, what's interesting is 5 years ago, when they were the best running team in football, the league was different. Now, there's a lot more of these running quarterbacks. And if you really want to commit to running the ball, then having a quarterback who could give you 500, 800 yards a season on the ground really helps. And I think the threat of the quarterback running helps the running back. So you've seen, the Baltimore, Philly, Washington, Arizona. Arizona was like second in the league in running this year because the quarterback's a big part of it. It's going to be hard to be the best running team in the league if your quarterback doesn't run a lot. That being said, Brock can run.
I don't agree. Brock can scramble, but he doesn't run. Yeah. I think there's a difference.
It's true.
Jalen Hurts can run.
He's built like a running back.
Yeah, he can run through tackles. Purdy is clever. He's a great schoolyard ball player. Mm-hmm. If he can scramble if he needs to, but you couldn't make him part of the running attack.
It's funny. Steve Young said that he'd like to see Brock Purdy be part of the running attack. But yeah, I mean, if he's kind of small, he's not the fastest guy in the world. And if he gets hurt, then you're screwed. And he's gotten hurt running. He's also gotten hurt in the pocket.
If he runs a lot, he'll get hurt.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
He's clever at scrambling. but I think there's a difference. If he is a part of the running game, he's going to get hurt.
And what's interesting about Purdy and Hurts, they're both limited as passers. I mean, in different ways. Purdy has a weak arm. Hurts doesn't see the field that well. But if you have a quarterback who's limited as a passer, you'd really like him to be very dangerous as a runner. And one is very dangerous and one is nifty.
Yeah, nifty. That's a
Nifty.
really good adjective for him. And I
Yeah.
love nifty on a
Yeah.
team with other weapons.
Yeah.
But you can't depend on nifty.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if the league is really going this direction, if it's becoming more of a running league. It's an interesting trend. Forever, my whole life, people say it's a passing league. It's all about stopping the pass and throwing. Yards per game through the air, down 30 yards per game from 10 years ago. That's not the evolution I was expecting into the 2020s.
Okay, Iggy, I want to come back to the division and the conference. The way the 49ers are now, and we understand they're going to get players in free agent and they're going to get in the draft. I understand it. Where they are now, where do they rank in their division?
If Christian McCaffrey were to come back and play a full season and be great, they would be right there at the top. But if he can't do that, if he's compromised, if he's in and out, they're still at the bottom.
Fair enough. So it's McCaffrey is so
It's a running league, and he's their best player.
Okay, let's go to the conference. Where do they stack up in the conference? And let's do the McCaffrey test the way you just did it.
Okay, if McCaffrey's back and he can go for 1,500 yards on the ground and play 15, 16 games, then I think they're up there with Detroit and Minnesota and Green. They're not the best team in the NFC, but they might be up there with Washington. They might be the second. They might win their own division.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
If CMC isn't CMC.
If CMC isn't CMC and they let Jordan Mason go and they don't have a real good backup who can play for a while, I mean, Garendo is more of a filler-inner. They could miss the playoffs again, even with Robert Saleh on the team. Because when this team has to pass a lot, Purdy tends to turn the ball over and lose. They need to run the ball a lot. That's their game script.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're saying is, as of today, which is the 18th of February, we see the Niners going one of two ways, and we really don't have the answer.
So much depends on a 29-year-old running back. Plays with rainwater.
He's making me. There's a very famous poem by William Carlos Williams called "The Red Wheelbarrow," and he was just doing a take on the Red Wheelbarrow. I love.
How did William Carlos Williams' parents name him William? How are they sitting there? The Williams is thinking, what do we name this kid? He's a good kid. He's got potential. We know. How about William? William Williams.
William.
Throwing a Carlos. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, you put in the Carlos, and then you're better
Yeah.
off.